Hi, this is Suzanne in Ohio. Hey, today I'm sharing fabric collage projects. Well, one completed project and two or three ongoing. But this project has turned out so well for myself and some fellow crafters that are coming into the house once a week. And I just had to share it. So what you're looking at here is my first completed project with this particular technique. And I chose a bird, of course. Anything pretty or nature is what I like. So there's a lot to be said about fabric collage. I looked at several YouTube videos and I've read some in the books and so on and so forth, but I improvised with my own technique to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. So let me walk you through that process by using here some photos that I took during the ongoing process. Now I take the photos specifically to just see with my own eye what's going on, because sometimes from a photo you can tell better what you're. Okay, my zoom is not responding. Let me see. Okay, we're just going to go with it here. Okay, so what you'll see at the top, and I'm sorry, please excuse the photo paper with the glare. That's what I had to do. Up here is a photo of my first steps of starting. I had a photo from the internet, copyright free, and I printed it off in color. I also printed off a high contrast, which I don't have a sample of to show you right now. Then I printed off an enlarged black and white. And in most cases, I had to do it in two parts and splice it and paste it together, tape it together. So I have a black and white photo. And then I take that black and white photo and I mount it, just tape it onto some foam board. The foam board really comes in handy. If you're going to try this, just go to Walmart and get a cheap piece of photo or foam board. Same thing your kids used in science projects when they were in school. All right. Now, all the instructions out there on the internet say, you can lay a piece of parchment over top of your photo and then work on top of it by looking through the parchment. But my black and white was so light. I'm working from a photo, not a pattern printed on fabric or anything like that. So I had to improvise. So after thinking it long and hard, what I decided to do was take a piece of netting. Cheaper the better, the bigger holes the better. And I just laid it over top of my photograph and, put straight pins into the foam board to hold it in place. And then I started adding my pieces of fabric, and I'll explain how I did that in a minute, on top of the netting. So you're seeing the photograph, but you're applying the colored fabrics to the netting in the shape of the bird. So you can see here I did his breast, wings. I was just getting my feet wet, so I took it nice and slow. And then right here, I cannot get my zoom to respond, so I'm sorry. Here's my photograph, and then I've moved further along. I filled in more of the bird here, you can see. And then when the bird was completely done, such as right here, I cut him out of the netting and then started thinking about what his background should be. I treated a piece of fabric here to suit my own needs, whatever I wanted. Hold on just a second. Let me see if I can get my zoom to respond. Nope, it just isn't. Okay. Alrighty, hold on. Okay. So I began to I was happy with my background, and I began to audition several ways to do something around him to make him look nestled in. I tried some just cut out leaves, some stained dyed lace. I tried a different position here. And what I finally ended up doing was this layout with maple leaves, because I have those, I call them pin maples, but they're a certain type of a silver maple in my backyard. So that fabric I treated also, because I just didn't have the perfect print of fabric to use, so I doctored up my own fabric. And there's one of my layouts. Those are just laying on there. And then when I finally decided what the perfect layout was, um, this is, of course, how he ended up. And I took this picture with a lot of light coming from the side so that I could see what my quilting was looking like. You can see that quilting, or the light, causes all the quilting dimples to show up really drastically, but he doesn't look like that in real life. But I want to make sure I got them in the right place. So here he is, and hold on a second. Maybe this is responding now. I don't know. And here he is in real life, and he's beautiful. All right, so let me show you a couple other people's projects and see if I can do a better job explaining this. All right, this is my sister's project. Let's start with these little photos. So here's where she first started. Maybe this will work, I don't know. And she's doing a clematis blossom. So here's her photo. Here's her high contrast. And here's grayscale photo in the background, and with a piece of netting over top of it, and she's beginning to lay colors on that. Here it is a little further along, and then here's all the petals complete right there. And she did one or two leaves because they looked like they overlapped one of the petals. So here's where she's at now. What she has done is, there's a nice view of the clematis blossom. You can see it's a lot of tiny little pieces, and they're layered over top of each other, and whatever you like. You have an artist liberty to render that photograph a little bit more exaggerated or perfectly true to form, whatever you want to do. Here's where she has chosen all the colors that are going to be in her background. She is doing her entire piece right on top of the netting. It's all going to be one. She's not going to cut out that blossom and put it on a different background. She's doing her background along with in the blossom in the same technique as the flower is done. So that's one way to do it. But when I had the photograph of the robin, or the Baltimore Oriole, he didn't have a good background. So I had to find something to nestle him in. Okay, so here's another girl's, wow, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to show you this because my Zoom is not responding. Oh, darn. So, let me try another. Okay, well, it's responding a little bit with that button. It's not always, but see, there's 3 ways to adjust this Zoom, and my son is not here to help me. Okay, so, oh, finally, oh my God. Oh, I hate to say that, but that's how I feel right now. Okay, so she's got it mounted on the foam board. And I'm just going to unpin one corner so you can see for sure. This is just a piece of cheap netting laid right over the photo. And actually, it's not even white because I didn't have white with this big of holes in it. So this is actually yellow, but it doesn't matter one bit. Now, let me lift up this corner so you can see it's laid right on top. There's her grayscale photograph underneath. So what I told the girls to do, let me show you one more step in this, because I had to work out this process. They all got a high contrast print and the grayscale. So on either one or both, you mark off the sections of your bird, first in great big sections, and then decide if you want to do them all as one piece of fabric or if you want to divide those sections even smaller. If you divide even smaller, what you get is an opportunity to include more and different fabrics, which adds only to the character. It just works out wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to show you what project came out of this one. Of course, it's, let me see if I have the color one. Yeah, American Goldfinch. And this was the photograph that I was going for. Okay, high contrast, just for reference, because sometimes you need to go back and forth between these photographs to see what's really going on. And then the large grayscale. So I'll show you that project in a second. But you can see how this project, I'm just going to keep turning him around. Now, I don't know if she will put her background right around this cardinal or if she will cut him out after he's fused, and I'll explain that in a second. Cut him out after he's fused and then use him like a giant applique and put him on some kind of different background. Isn't this something? Can't even get this thing. It's so big. Oh my gosh, it finally decided to respond a little bit. But if I leave him upside down, you can see more of him. Now, she's got a few touch-ups to do on here. For one thing, she forgot to do the bottom portion of his bill. So she's got a little raggy piece of black right there, which she's going to leave, and it'll be covered up with the bottom part of his bill. And she used large sections and really took her artist's liberty to shape the sections the way she wanted to. She put a lot of curly cues or smooth little lines to indicate feathers. It's just darling. And because there is a stripy looking effect on the bird because of the way his wings fold, I suggested, I found it worked for me. For instance, these are the edge of his feathers, but you can't do that in great detail without spending a lifetime doing that kind of thing. So I suggested she put some black stripes on here, and it gives the impression of exactly what it's supposed to be. Okay, so that's her project, and when these girls get their projects done, I'll have to show you how they look and what they end up doing with them. So I have a mantra, however you pronounce that. I don't let anything out of my sight without copying it. So I scanned my bird as much of him as I could get on the scanning screen, and then shrink him down and print him off. And my goal is to make cards or add images to my journals or whatever. So keep that in mind. Now this is printed on glossy photo paper, so it doesn't get quite the contrast as the original, but still looks very good. All right, so let me show you the back of this little guy. Traditional quilt mounting with these little triangle pockets, and all you do is include that onto the background, the backing, before you put your binding on, and then a little skewer, in this case a tiny little dowel rod, slips right up in there, and then all you have to have is one tiny little tack in the wall to hang him up. All right, so back to our little goldfinch here. Again, that was photo, high contrast, divided off into what could possibly be different sections, and that changes as you go. And then what happened here was when I would draw out what I was going to do, it came through the netting and marked on the grayscale. I think that was fine. I love that. That way I can reuse this again without having to rethink it. So I'm going to attempt to show you that project. And here he is. And he is just barely in the basting stages. Now, I had to come up with a background for him as well. And what I did was use a lot of old tablecloths, doilies, dresser scarves, and things like that. And I got him into, what I want to say, a lace collage that I thought he looked good in. And he's still not down yet. I'm just barely beginning to baste him and all the laces where I need to. Once he is basted and I know nothing will shift, then I will put some stuffing behind him a tiny bit, and as I stitch him down around the edges, he'll become nice and rounded and puffy looking. A couple little backstories here. I originally was going to put him on like a thistle branch because I quite frequently see them sitting on thistles. They love to eat the seeds of milk thistles or even teasels. There's different kind of thistles, even Canadian thistles. They love it after those little flowers go to seed. But I thought, I don't know. But my girlfriend brought me this old tablecloth. She's given me now 2 of them. One was in its natural ecru kind of color, but this one she had dyed a sage green years ago. So I ripped some pieces of it and spritzed it with alcohol ink so that I could get 3 shades of green. So here's the color she had. I did a green, almost a yellowy green, and then a more of a bluer green, darker green for the background. And just layered it with scraps of lace. Here's a piece of a curtain, a doily, a crochet dresser scarf. This is, I don't know what you call this, but it was, somebody gave me these, and this was the scraps I had. So, because it had already been cut up and used on a different project. So all of this stuff is laid in there, and my sister helped me. I always take photographs as I'm putting something together, and if you look at it in photograph, you can see if your composition is correct. And I had something not quite right, and she helped me, and I shifted it around a little bit, and this is going to be my layout. I'm not changing it. When it's all stitched and all the hand stitching and the quilting is done, then I will, and if you're interested in this part, I'll put a medium weight pellon in the back, not stitched down, just something to help keep it straight and stiff. And then my backing, and then I'll choose a border and put it around, and it'll be finished off just like the Baltimore Oriole. So, okay, what's the question now? All right, I forgot to bring the product. Let me see if I can explain this. I can from this photograph, I'll bet. All right, you can see my sister has a page here, and it's got little rectangles placed down on it. What that page is a sheet of light Steam-A-Seam 2. Now, light Steam-A-Seam 2 is an adhesive that can be melted, pressed, and fused use as a fusing between fabrics. Well, when you get a page of light Steam 2, it's actually the adhesive in a very tacky, sticky state between two pages of release paper. So you tear one back off and press your fabric down there, and it will stay. And then you cut your shapes out of it, just like this. Remember, we removed the top sheet of release paper. This is sticking onto a sticky surface, and it has a piece of release paper on the back. So you cut your shapes out of this, and then turn it over, and there's a little trick. Remove the release paper on the back, and then it will just lay and stick and press onto the netting. Or if you're using parchment paper or fabric, it'll stick to those. And you put everything down and it will stay. You can trust it. And that way it's sticking, but it's not permanent. If you want to rearrange something, you can. And there's lots of videos out there that show the tricks of that. In this case, when my sister goes around this flower, she'll just take a little straight pin and lift up the edge of those blossoms and slide the green right underneath. It is just a marvelous product for this type of thing. So that's how it's going, and that's what we did. And I'll be sure and show you my little goldfinch when he's all done. If you have any questions, leave it in down below. And let's see what else I should say. Oh, please subscribe if you haven't. If you like paper arts and fabric arts, I do a little bit of both. So I hope you enjoyed this as far as fabric collage goes. Oh, I thought of something else I should comment on. On my Baltimore oil and on this one, after I got him all done, I also applied some hand-dyed lace. Let's see if I can get this focused to, oh good, it's going. So I'll see if I can show you this. But this, he's got a little bit of hand-dyed lace on him, and I dyed batches of lace, I think 4 years ago, 15 different colors, and I've got the right color here. So I laid it, some pieces over top of the fabrics that I had used, just to give texture and a little bit of shading in some cases and whatever. All right, that's all my little tips and tricks for today, but subscribe if you haven't already and leave a comment. All right, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.